First Inaugural Address of William McKinley, Thursday, 4th March 1897. Fellow citizens, in obedience to the will of the people and in their presence by the authority vested in me by this oath, I presume the arduous and responsible duties of the President of the United States, relying upon the support of my countrymen and invoking the guidance of Almighty God.
Clearly and in style.
Our faith teaches us that there is no safer reliance than upon the God of our Father,
Longer pauses.
who has so singularly favored the American people in every national trial, and who will not forsake us so long as we obey His commandments and walk humbly in His footsteps. The responsibility of a high trust to which I have called, always of grave importance, are augmented by the prevailing business conditions, entailing idleness upon willing labor and loss to useful enterprise. The country is suffering from industrial disturbance, from which speedy relief must be had. Our financial system needs some revision. Our money is of all good now, but its value must not be further be threatened. It should all be put upon an enduring basis, not subject to easy attack, nor its stability to doubt or dispute. Our currency should continue under the supervision of the government. The several forms of our paper money offer, in my judgment, a constant embarrassment to the government and the safe balance in the treasury. Therefore, I believe it's necessary to devise a system which, without diminishing the circulation medium or offering a premium to the contraction, will present a remedy for those arrangements which temporary nation might well in the years of our prosperity have been displaced by wiser provisions. With adequate revenue secured, but not until then, we can enter upon such changes in our fiscal law as will, while ensuring safety and volume to our money, no longer impose upon the government the necessity of maintaining so large a gold reserve, with its attendant and inevitable temptation to speculation. Most of our financial laws are the outgrowth of experience and trial, and should not be amended without investigation and demonstration of the wisdom and the proposed change. We must be both show we are right and make haste slowly. If therefore Congress in its wisdom shall deem it expedient to create a commission to take under early consideration the revision of our coinage, banking and money and currency law, and give them that exhaustive, careful, and dispassionate examination that their important demands, I shall cordially concur in their such action. If such powers vested in that President, it's my purpose to appoint a commission of prominent, well-informed citizens of different parties who will command public confidence, both on account of their ability and special fitness for their work. The experiment is, at all events, without the trial, and in my opinion, it can be proved beneficial to the entire country. The question of international bimetallism will have either early and earnest attention. It will be a constant endeavor to secure it by cooperation with the great other commercial powers of the world. Until that condition is realized, where the parity between our gold and silver money springs from and is supported by the relevant relative value of two metals, the value of the silver already coined and of that which may hereafter be coined must be kept constantly at par with gold by every resource of our command. The credit of the government, the integrity of the currency, and the inviolability of its obligation must be preserved. This was the commanding verdict of the people, and it will not be unheard. Economy is demanding that in every branch of the government of all times, but especially in periods like the present of the depression in business and its distress among the people. The exteriorist economy must be observed in all public expenditures and extravagance, stopped wherever it's found, and prevented wherever in the future it may be developed. The revenue If the revenue are to remain as now, the only relief that can come must from the seized expenditures. Our revenue should always be large enough to meet the ease and promptness not only the current needs and the principal and interest of the public debt, but to make poor and liberal provisions that from that most deserving body of public creditors, the soldiers and sailors and the widows and orphans who are pensioners of the United States. The government should not be permitting to run behind or increase its debt in times like the present. Suitably to provide against this is the mandate of duty, a certain and easy remedy for most of our financial difficulties. A deficiency is inevitable so long as the expenditure of the government exceeds its receipts. It can only be met by loans or increasing revenue. Neither should be encouraged. Between more loans and more revenue, there ought to be one opinion. We should have more revenue, and that without delay, hindrance, or postponement. The surplus in the treasury created by loans is not a permanent or safe reliance. It will suffice while it lasts, but it can not last long if the outlays of the government are greater than the receipts, as has been the case in the past 2 years. Nor must it be forgotten that however much such loans may temporarily relieve the situation, the government is still indebted with the amount of the surplus thus accrued, which it must ultimately pay, while the ability to pay is not strengthened, but weakened by continued deficit. In the revision of the tariff especially, attention should be given to the reenactment and extension of a reciprocity principle of the law of 1890, under which so great a stimulus was given to the foreign trade in new and advantageous markets for our surplus agricultural and manufactured products. The brief trial given this legislation amply justifies a further experiment and additional discretionary power in the making of commercial treaties, the end in view always to be the opening of new markets for the product of our country by granting concession to the products of other lands that we need and cannot produce ourselves, and which do not involve any loss of labor to our own people but tend to increase their employment. One of the lessons taught by the late election, which all can rejoice in, is that the citizens of the United States are both law-respecting and law-abiding people, not easily swayed by the path of patriotism and honor. This in the entire accord with the genius of our institutions, and but emphasis the advantages of inculcating even a better, greater love of law and order of the future. Immunity should be granted to none who violate the laws, whether individual, corporation, or communities, as the Constitution imposes upon the President the duty of both its own execution and of the statutes enacted in pursuance of its provisions. I shall endeavor carefully to carry on them into the effect. This purpose will be steadily pursued, both by enforcement of the law now in existence and by the recommendation of support of such new statutes as may be necessary to carry it into effect. Reform in the civil service must go on, but changes should be real and genuine, not perfunctory, nor prompted by a zeal on behalf of an party simply because it happens to be in power. A member of the Congress, I voted and spoke in favor of the present law, and I shall attempt its enforcement in the spirit in which it was enacted. The purpose of in view it was to secure a most effective service of the best man who would accept appointment under the government, retaining faithful and devoted public servants in office, but shielding none under the authority of any rule of custom who are ineffective, incompetent, or unworthy. Congress should give prompt attention to the restoration of our American merchant marine, once the pride of the seas in all the great ocean highways of commerce. To my mind, a few more intelligent subjects are so imperatively demand its intelligent consideration. The United States has progressed with marvelous rapidity in every field of enterprise and endeavor until we have become foremost in nearly all the great lines of inland trade and commerce and industry. Commendable progress has been made in the last years in the upbuilding of the American Navy, but we must supplement these efforts by providing as a proper consort for it a merchant marine amply sufficient for our own carrying trade of foreign countries. Our fellow citizens, we may disagree with us upon the character of this legislation, prefer to have the question settled so reasonably, as I trust and believe it will be, as I to ensure more permanence than to have further uncertainty menacing the vast and varied business interest of the United States. Let's rejoice in and cultivate this spirit. It's an ennobling and will be both a gain and a blessing to our beloved country. In conclusion, I congratulate the country upon the fraternal spirit of the people and the manifestation of goodwill in everywhere so apparent. The recent election may not only most fortunately demonstrated the obliteration of sectional or geographic lines, but to some extent also the prejudices for which years have distracted our councils and marred our true brightness as a nation. The triumph of the people whose verdict is carried into effect today is not the triumph of one section or not wholly of one party, but of all sections and of all people. It may be my constant aim of to do nothing and permit nothing to be done that will arrest or disturb this growing sentiment of unity and cooperation, this revival of esteem and affiliation which now animates so many thousands of both the old and antagonist sections, but I shall cheerfully do everything possible to promote and increase it. This is the obligation I have reverently taken before the Almighty God. I will faithfully execute the office of the President of the United States and will, to my best of the ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States. To keep it to be will be my single purpose, my constant prayer, and I shall confidently rely upon the forbearance and the assistance of all the people and the discharge of my solemn responsibilities. Thank you and good night.